You ready? Okay. Hey, Jen.
Hello.
Wait, hold on, I'm not that ready.
You not that ready. We on it.
I said we were ready.
Hey,
He's like, I'm not that ready.
I'm not ready yet.
You bring me comfort to my soul. You bring me comfort to my soul. Give me such a high. You bring me comfort to my soul. You bring me comfort to my soul. Give me such a high.
Hey.
I'm so excited to talk to you because we've talked a lot about both of us having started our own businesses, and it's just been amazing to me how many women have really launched out and become entrepreneurs. We both know quite a few people who started a variety of businesses, beauty businesses, fashion, women's empowerment workshops. So a lot of different businesses, jewelry making, and so you have It's Divine, and I really wanted to talk to you about really what it takes to launch out, because when I thought about you, I was just like, Jen is fearless. Like, I just find you to be a fearless woman, because what I know of you is that you don't seem to be afraid to take a chance and like kind of jump at an opportunity as soon as it presents itself. So I really wanted to kind of just hear from you about what it took for you to just jump out there and take the leap of faith.
Thanks for chatting with me, because it's I know that I'm in great company. As you said, many times our circles are a key factor to who we are. With It's Divine specifically, it was a call. It wasn't something that I necessarily was ready to do, or thought I was ready to do initially. But once the opportunity presented itself and all of the key players, became a part of this little circle, it just blossomed into something that I never expected. I walked away from my job, my 9 to 5, something that I was completely secure in, and I had a lot of great push from my supervisors, like your supervisor pushing you to go into an endeavor that you don't even know.
Right.
Well, you don't even know what you're doing. But he had full support there from my friends, people like you. And so I knew that there was something that needed to be done for youth and young adults specifically, for their personal growth, to empower and to inspire them. And so mentorship is something that's always come naturally. And so I just led with it, and we're here now, year 2, and so many things on the horizon.
So what's interesting to me is that it seems that It's Divine blossomed into more than what you envisioned it to be.
Every day.
Or even before, right? Every day is something new. But even before It's Divine, I remember you had this idea of creating something that would be more of it was like a clearinghouse or something like, it was still mentorship, but I think you were trying to connect people, like a networking
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
And then you started It's Divine, which still does that in another way.
Right.
So it's interesting that we may have a seedling of an idea, but once we start pursuing it, and it just blossoms and morphs into something much larger than we could ever imagine.
Absolutely. So to speak to what you're referencing, it was supposed to be this networking group with anyone from any profession or background or entrepreneurial spirit to kind of come together and we collaborate. I think somewhere down the line maybe that still may happen, but It's Divine has now become a platform for all ages, from the 6-year-old to the 35-year-old that's looking to pursue something great. And so if that's what it's supposed to be right now, I'm okay with it, but I really think that we're going to get back into that networking thing, delving a little deeper in the near future.
So just tell me a little bit about what It's Divine is, how you came up with that name, and just some of the things, because I mean it seems like there's a long list of things that It's Divine
Yeah.
does. So just kind of.
So I'll start with the name first. So It's Divine. I was in the park with a mutual friend, Kiana, Booked and Balanced, and she was coming up with names, and I said Divinity. I was like, let's talk about divinity, and she was like, divinity. Then she goes, it's divine. And I said, it's divine. I was like, it's divine. And I was like, everything is divine. And then it just this whole thing just sparked. I was like, creativity divine, sport divine. Like everything just came to mind about how everything in life can be divine, you know, if you just put some effort into it, you know. It can be anything. And so that's where how the name formulated. In terms of what it is that we do, it's sheer mentorship. It's conversation. You know, growing up, I've had great leaders and I've had great mentorship throughout my life. And I said, you know what? That's something I want to do. I have a responsibility to give that back. Whether it's to youth, whether it's to young adults that are just looking for a succession plan. You know, what does that look like? Sometimes you just want to have a conversation. You want to be heard. And so I wanted this platform to be just that. Currently, I'm working with the children of Bridgehampton Child Care and Recreational Center in Bridgehampton, New York, and it's phenomenal. They're a group of teens that are they inspire me every other week. I say every other week as I'm there, but their visions are just so clear. They're so determined, but they have this idea of there's so much more to learn, and that's great, especially in this time. You don't see that, you know, too much from youth where they're willing to learn. And so I go there and we do programming on dream chasing, where I do a correlation with known authors such as Langston Hughes, and we break down the content and see how it can be applied to their everyday lives. And we incorporate that with activity, and you've got one great workshop. And so I'm just so grateful for the directors there and what they're doing, and allowing me to come and work with their teams. I don't know if it's too soon for me to say, but now we have the camp, the Journey Summer Enrichment Camp.
Awesome.
Another thing that I did not foresee on the Divine Horizon, but it's here. And that actually stemmed from me watching a documentary about some of the programming that is right here in New York City. That children in urban communities don't have the opportunity to attend. And so I said, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to create this whole new lane for children of Bushwick and all over Brooklyn and a little of Queens if we can. And so they're learning language. They're learning Mandarin. They're going to learn how to play chess. STEM programming. You know, the list goes on and on. Financial literacy. That's a huge thing in our communities. And so I'm just excited about all the new things that are on the horizon with It's Divine. And you don't know. The best is yet to come, I think.
I know. It's always something else. But what's so interesting is that, so for me starting Drivetime was something that really took so many years for me to finally do it, right? So it was more so as a minister in church. I had been doing a lot of workshops, different types of youth retreats, youth and young adult retreats, women's workshops and conferences. And I had friends who wanted me to, they all were on the phone. It was 3 women on the phone. They all telling me, Sheree, I need to come talk to you. And they all had different things they wanted to talk to me about. And I said, well, it sounds like you need a retreat. And they said, well, if you plan it, we'll come. Yeah. And so I created this whole retreat in my home, in my living room. I did different workshops, had different activities, had breakout sessions with them. It was a whole day. I think so many times we underestimate what our gifts are and how valuable they are. And a lot of times those of us who have that kind of giving spirit and that creativity, we're always doing stuff for other people. If we're in church or whatever religious affiliation or any organizations you're a part of, you may be just naturally doing these things. And it's fine to still do that, but you can still make it a lucrative endeavor.
Absolutely.
And that was the piece that was more challenging for me, because it was easy for me to do it for church, for my friends. But then when I had to charge, you can become uncomfortable. It's like, I'm gonna make people pay for what I used to do for them for free. But what I saw was that they were willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
because
yes,
they saw
yes.
the value in it.
Absolutely.
And so it took me a great deal of courage. Shout out to Reverend Tisha Dixon Williams, who has Who's That Lady? Her women's empowerment, her Bible study of lesser known women, and it's morphed into a huge movement.
Yes.
But it was in sitting in the Who's That Lady Bible study, and we had to do our 50-50-50 list.
Yes.
Right? And it's 50 things you want to do, 50
Places
things you
you
want
wanna
to go, and 50 things you want to be. And one of the things I wanted to do, I said, I want to launch Thrive. And so I set a goal. I said, it was in 2017. It was February 2017. I said, I want to do at least 2 Thrive events this year. That's my goal. I need to get this done. And so from February, starting from then, I had got my logo designed, my lovely logo, made by Wolf Designs. Deanna Woolfolk is phenomenal.
Awesome.
And yes, we both have used her for a lot of our graphic design. Shout out to Deanna Woolfolk. She did all of that. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to launch, but I'm going to make my launch a 2-day event. So that way, with me launching it, I will have achieved my goal of hosting 2 Thrive events this year.
That's it. That's
And so I did one in July and one in August, and hosted it in Brooklyn at El Noel Spa in Brooklyn, New York. And I had a total of about 50 people who came between those 2 days. And that was wonderful for me. And then people were like, when's the next one?
Yes. Yes.
So,
yes.
and you see, it takes you to just do it. Sometimes you just have to, just like Nike, just do
Just
it.
do it. Just
And
do it.
you're afraid, but do it anyway. And
You touched on something.
Yeah.
You touched on something when just going back to you saying you were sitting in the Who's That Lady session. I think a lot of what it is that we're doing, and I was talking about this morning with a friend of just jumping out the window. We made a decision.
Yeah.
You know, we made a decision, and this was something that, you know, like peeking through, and I see you, but we made a decision to say, you know what, we're going to do this thing. There's a need for it, and like you, I believe that who we were surrounded by, we started to encounter people that needed these sessions, that needed the conversation, needed this kind of dialogue and support. And we made a decision.
Yeah.
You know, and if that's not fearless by itself, you know, half the time we're like, you know, people don't always make decisions or even make good decisions sometimes. But to make a decision and say, you know what, this is bigger than me.
Yeah.
This is about lives I can change and who I can support. That speaks volumes.
Yeah, it's like we had to make a decision, and when you make decisions, oftentimes you weigh the pros and the cons, and it's so easy to list all the ways that this won't work.
Yes.
List all the reasons why you shouldn't do it, and they could be very valid reasons, but at the end of the day, for me, I had to do it because I didn't want to regret it later.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Regret that I didn't do it. And what I know from God is that God gives you an idea.
Yes.
If you don't pursue it, someone else will do it. And I've seen that happen. Even with Thrive, you know, my business is called Drivetime because Thrive is now this concept. It's out there. So many different people are using the word thrive and thriving for their thing. So it's like, clearly, this is a message that God, it's a dynamic message that God wants to get out there, that he wants people to thrive. But I feel that had I not gone on and taken that leap, someone else, and probably it could have been someone within my circle, may have had the same inspiration, and I would have to sit there upset like, I had that idea first and I didn't do it. And so it's sometimes it's just about, I'm afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway, and just be surprised at the response.
The response. Yeah, and that's the thing, you know. I think there's always a level of apprehension there. It's the unknown, right? It's what you don't know. I've never been here before. I've never done this before. Who's gonna take me seriously? If that hasn't crossed my mind a million times, you know, it hasn't crossed enough, but the point is that you do it anyway. And again, going back to a need, I would be in so many, forums, and I would hear things from children, and I would say to myself, like, oh, we need that. We need to nurture these children. We need to ensure that, they have the tools, to grow their mindset. They're looking at life from varying lenses. Like, I was like, oh, it was like an itch. You get the itch and you're like, I gotta get in, I have to figure it out. And I knew for me that there were so many creative things and ideas and innovative approaches to learning. That I was just, I was harboring. And I'm like, well, what good is that?
Right.
Who's benefiting from this? And, again, made a decision and just said, this is what we're going to do. So I'm excited about Drivetime. I'm excited about Drivetime because, it's more than just a woman's ministry. When you think about it, it's just like everything that I do in life, I want to thrive. I want to thrive at, being a mom. I watch you thrive all the time. Like, your little ones, they have a gem in you as a mom. So the women that you impact and just give a glimpse of something, to look forward to, and let them know, like, listen, it doesn't matter where you are. Take what you have and expand on it. Make it great. You're worth it. That's what I get from Drivetime. You're worth it. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Man, I'm excited about Drivetime as well, and talking about, you said, you didn't say, what'd you say? You said your mind just kept popping, just all these ideas, right? And that's what was happening for me, was that, with me being so active in church ministry and doing all these things, I was having ideas of other things I could be doing. And, it was a little, there was some uncertainty I had about launching out, because the security and just having a 9-to-5.
Yes.
And having benefits. Benefits are wonderful. Dental, medical, vision, 401k, all those things are phenomenal. But the idea of kind of starting something, and it did take courage. But what I realized about being courageous or being fearless is that it's a process, and it's ever evolving. It's not like I'm fearless once and for all. Dun, 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 I can do everything. Because as you continue to do something, I know for me, I push myself to do something more. But then it's like it takes another level of courage to do it. And what I think helped me to have the courage, have the boldness to even start Drivetime is having supportive friends and family who are like-minded, right? Not everybody, to this day, not everybody who I know gets what I do. Not everybody I know supports what I do. But then I have, a core group of people who understand it. And they don't understand it, they just love what I'm doing, and they're just going to help support it, get the word out as much as possible. And that's what helped build my courage, is that sometimes you may not see all of what you're capable of. But there are those around you who go, oh no, I can totally see you doing that. Oh no, you see how you do these things? You could definitely launch out. And I think a lot more women and children and whoever need whatever you're doing. That's what helped me overcome the fear and just do it. Because I had those people who not only would say you can do it, but then maybe offer the resources and some direction in how to get it started.
And that's so interesting that you say that, because that is literally my prayer every single day. Just touching on being courageous, it's definitely a marathon. I wake up every day, and that's a prayer of mine, to be bold, to be courageous. Each day holds something new. Again, in another conversation I had this morning, I was like, I am petrified about this camp. I'm excited because I know everything that's being put into it. I know that the children will, there'll be a level of enrichment there and empowerment there that they need. And so that excites me. But just the idea that this is something that I've never done before,
Yeah.
I'm petrified. But I did say this. I want to be petrified for the
Yeah.
rest of my life in the things that are new and the things that I'm doing, because I think that gives me a sense of humility, to in a sense, where I still know there's more to do. I don't think that I've arrived,
Yeah.
because there's always more to do.
Right.
But again, a prayer of mine is that the relationships, people that I come in contact with, that they be fortified, that they be healthy, that, you know, perhaps one conversation can lead to something greater.
Yeah.
You know, that's important, because like you said, you know, our circles are ever changing, and you want to be with like-minded people and people that get it. You know, sometimes you meet people that are like, yeah, I want to invest in what you're doing, I want to be a part of, but then you have to use discernment and say, well, I don't know how in alignment you are with my vision. You know, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe you'll be better in another capacity. Like, you know, all of these things. But being courageous, it's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Like you have to make a decision. Just have to make a decision. And so I think that's a huge part, especially in entrepreneurship and in ministry.
Yeah.
You know, it's a never-ending thing.
Yeah,
It's a never-ending
definitely. And I think you touched on it, and having that a little bit of fear or nervousness does keep you humble too, right? So I know for me, when I first started preaching, and even now every time I preach, there's always a little bit of like, not as much as it used to be, but it's still there. But I see that as, you know what, that means I know I cannot totally depend on my strength and abilities. I have to depend on my higher power.
Yes.
I have to depend on God to give me the strength to do this big thing, because this thing is bigger than me.
Bigger than me.
But I believe in 1 John 4:4 it says, greater is he who's in me than he who's in the world. And my pastor, Reverend Jacob in Underwood, would always call that the 4x4. You need a 4x4 to help you drive over these bumps in the road. And so it's not a bad thing if the things you approach and things you aspire to do scare you a little bit. That's good. You know, it's the adrenaline you need to help you to get through it. And really, I feel like it's not until you get through it and you look back and you really see how crazy that was. You're like, oh man, okay, I knew it was crazy. I didn't realize how crazy it was until now I think about what I did. God is amazing. I can't even take credit for all this. God is awesome.
It had nothing to do with it. It wasn't me. It's so true. It's so true. It is so true. And that's something that I see each and every day. You know, even in the things that seem so minuscule. I'm just like, God, that definitely wasn't me. Like, I had nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? Like, some things I don't even see coming. Half the stuff I do, I don't even see coming. So, you know, we have to give that respect, and knowing that some things are greater than us, and like you said, the power is that big. The Lord himself is working on our behalf.
One thing we had talked about before is, like, you know, this whole idea of, I had called it creating content, and you called it the sizzle. And I love that idea of the sizzle. So what I was saying is that right now where I am with Drivetime is that I am creating content. As I get the inspiration, I'm just creating content. I'm just, whatever, like Drivetime kinds of conversation, is this what we're doing? Was something that came up organically. And I don't know, I haven't gotten my 1 million views yet on YouTube. Hopefully the second episode is going to make that happen. But even if it was just 2 views, I'm still inspired by this. And I'm just going to do that. Last year I had the idea to do a quarterly newsletter. So I created Drivetime newsletter.
That's awesome.
And thank you. And I love it. The past 2 issues I'm ultra excited about. We did a Mother's Day edition and a Father's Day edition. We did audio recordings of the Mother's Day edition, and everything I've done, like, I started the newsletter last spring, and that was just the idea. Okay, every quarter I would do it. But then this year I said, okay, well, what more can I do with it? I have to add more to it. And that's when we said, okay, let's do the Mother's Day edition. I invited other people to write for it. We did the audio recording of it. But then birth from that, now it's Drivetime Conversation.
Yeah.
So with everything I do, with every year, every milestone for Drivetime, I'm looking at, okay, so taking it to the next level. I'm not content with just maintaining the status quo, because as much as people have enjoyed what I do, they come and support it, and they're always asking, so when's the next event? When they come to the next event, I don't want it to feel like the last event. I want them to know every time they come, there may be some similarities. There's certain components of a Drivetime experience that will always be there. But it's not going to feel like, okay, she's a one-trick pony. And so right now, I'm creating content because I believe that all this stuff that I'm putting together, at some point in time, Oprah Winfrey is going to discover me. And, you know, all these things I've been doing, you know, I'm ready to be, you know, in Oprah Magazine or whoever other magazine is out there. So that's where I am. I'm just at this place where, as crazy as it may seem, I'm like, I just have to say it. I just want to put it out there because I think I believe and I know there's power in what we say. And I have to kind of say it so I can hear myself say it, and it'll propel me to doing what I say.
Power to spoken word. That is absolutely something that I'm a firm believer in. I put things out there sometimes, and I'm just like, you know, not expecting any instant, you know, return on it. But I put it out there, and I say, you know what, I will have that. I will be doing this. We will be here. This is, you know, this is what the next step is. You know, when people ask me what it's divine, you know, okay, so now you've done the summer camp, now what? And I'm like, the goal is this is nothing. I was like, the building is next. I said, because there's programming out there that is needed, and it needs to be in one space. I said, so the building is what's next. The building is coming next. When the next is, I don't know, but I'm putting it out there, you know. I think about, you know, like when you go to Applebee's, you know, and they always have those hot meals, those sizzling hot meals that come up, and you can't quite see them because the waitress is like up here with it, and you're like, oh, but you just see the smoke, you know, you're following the trend, you're like, I don't know what that is, but I think I want it.
It smells
you know,
good.
It smells good. What is that?
It's hot.
You know, it is hot, you know. That's what, like, so to your point, I think that's what's being created. You know, with Drivetime, you're creating the sizzle, so you're calling it content. You have content here. Think about musicians. Let's talk about that for a moment. How many albums have been created and put out there, and guess what? They're like, oh yeah, I made that 5 years ago, and it's just getting some real airplay, and it's like going through the roof in the charts. I believe that everything has its time. You know, it's something that they say in business: a no is not a no forever. You know, and I lead with that because I'm like, listen, this may be something that I formulated today. I might not use that thing again for months or years down the line. But I don't believe that you did it for no reason. There's always a reason, you know. And so I say keep sizzling.
I like that.
Keep sizzling.
Keep sizzling. Keep sizzling. I love it because the thing is, I mean, you're creating this content, you're creating the sizzle, and everybody might not want what you're cooking.
Everybody doesn't want the hot pot.
They don't want the hot pot. They don't like smells nice, but you know, I don't do mushrooms. I was like, I don't do onions and green peppers and like that, right? So, but somebody wants it. It's just like I heard someone say before. It's like, I may not be your cup of tea, but I'm a cup of tea. Somebody take a sip.
Yes.
So you know, but the thing with me with the content is so interesting, where like I've gotten inspiration. I don't know and if you can remember where you were when you've been inspired for certain things. But I can remember even the inspiration I had to do Drivetime newsletter. Literally, I was sitting in the sauna at the gym. And it was my 30-minute time I had. It was like quiet time. Nobody's asking me for anything. Nobody's expecting me to do anything. No one knows where I am right now. And I was just sitting there, just quietly meditating. And I first had the idea of doing daily posts on Facebook, on Instagram, the Drivetime Tuesday, like Meditation Monday, Drivetime Tuesday, every day do something. And then it was, I need to do a newsletter because part of me wants to write more. And not certain where that'll take me. But I was like, I want to write more.
Yeah.
And so I created the newsletter. And so I wonder, do you remember?
Yes. So I'll speak specifically for the camp. And I referenced it a little earlier where I was watching a documentary, about this school. Schools in the city is called Avenues. Think it's a great program that they have going on. And I just wondered to myself, I'm like, well, it does kind of cater to more of affluent families, and there is a fee associated with it, but it's across the street from public housing.
Oh, wow.
And so what they played on in this particular documentary was that there are kids with families that, are sometimes 5 in 1 bedroom. And these kids look out the window and they look at all the children going to this particular school, and they know because they've taken tours of what they're learning and, what they're exposed to, and they just want an opportunity to be able to go. And even with financial aid, just can't quite get there, And so I literally remember sitting at the dining room table and I'm watching this documentary and I just started to cry. Wow. I literally cried. I called my daughter at school. I called Jaden, and she was between classes and she's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, because I'm watching this documentary. I was like, these kids just want to go to school. They just want to go to school. And I was like, and we need this everywhere. And in that moment, I actually said, I'm going to open up a center. I was like, perhaps I'll open up my own school. I said, but right now I'm going to open up a center where we have language, where we have chess, where we have this, and I'm just listing all these things. And she's like, okay, Mom, we'll do it. And from that moment, I just started going. Did I know it was a summer camp?
You're right.
No. But I said, you know what, I'm going to start here because I know what's happening in the community now. I know that there are a lot of, public advocates that are going to be right in my backyard. And so my hope is, in that moment, all I saw the vision. Now it's like, okay, things are coming together, and God willing, next time it'll be a completely free program, for these kids. But I remember that moment. I remember because it got me to my core. I'm like, every child needs to be able to experience this. Why do we live in a country where we just have so much going on? We have this programming, and now you need to know about 2 and 3 languages, just to thrive, just to thrive. And it's just like, but what about our kids that don't have access to those resources? And so I was like, I gotta be the game changer.
That's right.
Gotta be the game changer.
That's what it's all about, being a game changer. I know you and I, we've said it before, like we're just trying to take over the world.
Take over the world.
One day at a time, as it's divine, and we're taking our thrive time. We're going to take over the world.
Yes, we are.